Story 1. Michael Philpott was born in December 1956 in England. He grew up like any other child, but as he became a young man, he started showing signs of anger and control over others. When Michael was 21 years old, he had a girlfriend named Kim Hill. She was 15 years old when their relationship began. They stayed together for 2 years. During that time, Michael did several violent things to her. He once shot her in the leg with a crossbow. His reason was that he thought her dress was too short. Another time, he hit her kneecap with a hammer. His reason was that she paid too much attention to a baby she was looking after. In July 1978, Kim wrote Michael a letter. In the letter, she told him she was leaving him. Michael became very angry. While Kim was lying in bed, he stabbed her more than 12 times. Kim's mother came to help her daughter. Michael stabbed her mother too. Kim survived, but her lungs collapsed. Her bladder, kidney, and liver were punctured. Michael was arrested and taken to court. In December 1978, he was found guilty of trying to kill Kim. He was also found guilty of causing serious harm to her mother. The judge sent him to prison for 7 years. Michael only served 3 years and 2 months before he was released. After getting out of prison, Michael married a woman named Pamela Lomax in 1986. They had 3 children together, 2 sons and 1 daughter. Pamela later said that Michael was very controlling. She said she prayed that he would find someone else so he would leave her. Her wish came true when Michael met a 14-year-old girl named Heather Kehoe. Michael was 37 years old at that time. On Heather's 16th birthday, she ran away from her parents and moved in with Michael. She gave birth to 2 boys, one after the other. But Michael was not happy. He wanted a daughter, so he beat Heather. Heather also said that Michael taught his older sons to be violent toward her. Michael wanted Heather to have more children, but she did not get pregnant again. In 1991, Michael got into a fight at work. He headbutted a co-worker. He was given a 2-year conditional discharge. This meant he did not go back to prison as long as he behaved well. In 2000, Michael met a 19-year-old woman named Mairead Duffy. She was a single mother. She had just left a bad relationship. She moved into Michael's house very quickly. They got married in May 2003. In 2001, before his marriage to Mairead, Michael met another young woman. Her name was Lisa Willis. She was 16 years old. She was an orphan and a single mother. Lisa became Michael's mistress. In 2002, Michael invited Lisa to move into his council house because her house was smaller. Lisa served as a bridesmaid at Michael and Mairead's wedding in 2003. On December 23, 2002, Heather Kehoe went to court. She asked for legal custody of her 2 sons. The court agreed. She got full custody. Michael no longer had control over those children. In 2006, Michael asked the local council for a bigger house. At that time, his household included his wife Mairead, then 25 years old, his mistress Lisa Willis, then 22 years old. For children born to Mairead, 3 children born to Lisa, and 1 child Lisa had before she met Michael. The press found out about his 1978 conviction for attempted murder. They wrote stories about him. In 2007, Lisa gave birth to her 4th child by Michael. At the same time, Mairead was also pregnant. Both babies were due in March 2007. Before the babies were born, Michael appeared on a television show called The Jeremy Kyle Show. He defended his lifestyle. He said he would like to marry 1 woman and divorce the other. He also said he would get a vasectomy, so he could not have more children. Later in 2007, Michael appeared in another television documentary. It was called In Widcombe vs. And Widcombe was a member of Parliament. She spent a week with Michael and tried to convince him to change his lifestyle. She found him 3 different jobs. One job was with a company that made barrels. But Michael did not show up for work on the first day. He lost that job. During the documentary, Michael was shown living in a caravan in his garden. His wife and his mistress took turns spending nights with him in the caravan. And Whitcomb said that Michael did not care about anyone. She noticed that none of his children ever came to him for love or comfort. In 2010, Michael was given a police caution. A caution is a formal warning. He had slapped Mairead and dragged her outside by her hair. In November 2011, Michael was driving his car. He got into a road rage incident. He punched another driver. He later admitted to common assault. He was waiting to go to trial for that charge. After the road rage incident in November 2011, Michael Philpott continued living with his wife Mairead and his mistress Lisa Willis in the same house. But Lisa eventually left him. She took her children and moved out. This made Michael very angry. He believed that Lisa had taken his children away. He also worried that he would lose the welfare benefits he received for those children. Michael wanted to get his children back. He also wanted to punish Lisa. He began thinking of a plan. In early 2012, Michael discussed his plan with Mairead. He told her that they would set fire to their own house. The fire would look like an accident. Michael hoped that people would blame Lisa for the fire. He thought that if Lisa was blamed, the court would give him back custody of his children. He also thought that he could continue to claim benefits for them. Mairead agreed to help him. Michael knew he could not do this alone. He asked a friend named Paul Mosley to help. Paul was a 46-year-old man who lived nearby. Michael told Paul about the plan. Paul agreed to take part. The three of them planned the fire carefully. They decided to use petrol. Petrol burns very fast and very hot. They planned to pour petrol through the letterbox of the house. The letterbox was a small opening in the front door where mail was pushed through. Pouring petrol, there would start a fire inside the hallway. The fire would block the stairs. The children slept upstairs. They would not be able to escape. Michael, Mairead, and Paul chose a date. They chose the night of May 10th going into May 11th, 2012. They knew that Lisa had a court hearing the next morning. The hearing was about who would keep custody of her children. Michael thought that if the fire happened before the hearing, people would think Lisa started it to hurt Michael. On the evening of May 10th, 2012, Michael and Mairead were at home at 18, Victory Road in Osmaston, Derby. Their 6 children were also in the house. The children were Duane, age 13, Jade, age 10, John, age 9, Jack, age 7, Jesse, age 6, and Jaden, age 5. All 6 children went to sleep upstairs in their bedrooms. Michael and Mairead stayed awake. Around 4 o'clock in the morning on May 11th, 2012, Paul Mosley arrived outside the house. He brought a plastic container filled with petrol. He also wore a glove on his hand, so he would not leave fingerprints. Paul walked up to the front door. He poured the petrol through the letterbox. Then he lit the petrol. A large fire started immediately. Paul ran away from the house. The fire spread very quickly. The hallway and the stairs were on fire. Thick black smoke filled the house. The smoke rose up the stairs and into the children's bedrooms. Michael and Mairead escaped from the house. They got out safely. They did not try to go upstairs to save the children. They left the house and went outside. The fire was very big. Neighbors saw the flames and called the fire department. Firefighters arrived quickly. They went into the burning house. They found the 5 youngest children upstairs. Jade, John, Jack, Jesse, and Jaden were all unconscious. They had breathed in too much smoke. They died at the scene. The firefighters also found Duane, the oldest child. He was still alive but very badly hurt from the smoke. They took him to the hospital. 2 days later, on May 13th, 2012, Duane died in the hospital. The cause of death for all 6 children was smoke inhalation. They had all suffocated from breathing the poisonous air. After the fire, Michael and Mairead acted like grieving parents. They spoke to reporters. On May 16th, 2012, they held a news conference. They cried and pretended to describe what had happened. They said they did not know who started the fire. Michael told lies about how he tried to save his children. In truth, he had done nothing to save them. Local residents felt sorry for Michael and Mairead. People set up a charity called Catch Me When I Fall to help the family. Hundreds of people signed a book of condolence at Derby Cathedral. People who lived in the same area donated money. They raised over £11,000 to pay for the children's funerals. The police who came to the scene looked inside the letterbox. They found evidence of petrol. They knew right away that the fire was not an accident. Someone had poured fuel through the letterbox on purpose. This was a crime. The police began asking questions. Michael did not stop lying. He continued to pretend to be a victim. But he had made a mistake. He did not know that the police were already looking for the person who started the fire. On May 14, 2012, 3 days after the fire, the police made an official announcement. They had found petrol inside the letterbox of the Philpott home. This meant the fire was not an accident. It was arson. The police opened a murder investigation. The police first looked at Lisa Willis, Michael's former mistress. They thought she might have started the fire because she had a court hearing about her children on the morning of the fire. The police also arrested Lisa's brother-in-law, Ian Cousins. Both Lisa and Ian were questioned and then released. The police found no evidence against them. While the police were investigating, they watched Michael and Mairead closely. Several witnesses told the police that Michael was acting strangely. He did not seem like a father who had just lost 6 children. He seemed to enjoy being on television and in the newspapers. He liked the attention. The police decided to secretly listen to Michael and Mairead. They placed listening devices, called bugs, in the hotel room where the couple was staying. The police heard Michael and Mairead talking to each other. They also heard Mairead talking to Paul Mosley. During one of the recordings, Mairead was heard taking part in a sexual act with Paul. More importantly, the police heard conversations that proved all 3 of them had planned the fire together. On May 28, 2012, the police arrested Michael and Mairead on suspicion of murder. The police needed more time to question them. On May 30, 2012, both were charged with murder. The police continued to search for physical evidence. Near the Philpott home, they found a discarded plastic container that had held petrol. They also found a glove. In November 2012, forensic scientists tested the clothes worn by Michael, Mairead, and Paul Mosley. The tests showed that all 3 had petrol on their clothing. This was strong evidence that they had handled the fuel used to start the fire. On November 5, 2012, the police arrested Paul Mosley. He was also charged with murder. Later, the charge against all 3 was reduced from murder to manslaughter. The reason was that the prosecutors decided Michael, Mairead, and Paul did not intend to kill the children. Their plan was to start a fire that would make Lisa look guilty. They wanted to win back custody of the children and keep receiving welfare benefits. But the fire spread faster than they expected, and the children could not escape. Even though they did not mean to kill anyone, their actions caused 6 deaths. The trial began on February 12, 2013, at Nottingham Crown Court. The prosecutor was Richard Latham. Michael's lawyer was Anthony Orchard. Mairead's lawyer was Sean Smith. Paul's lawyer was Benjamin Nolan. The trial lasted 8 weeks. The jury heard all the evidence, including the secret recordings from the hotel room. On April 2, 2013, the jury returned its verdict. All 3 were found guilty of the manslaughter of the 6 children. The judge was Mrs. Justice Thirlwall. She was scheduled to give the sentences on April 3rd, but she asked for one more day to think. On April 4th, 2013, she gave the sentences. Michael Philpott received a life sentence in prison. He was told he must serve a minimum of 15 years before he could be considered for release. Mairead Philpott was sentenced to 17 years in prison. Paul Mosley was also sentenced to 17 years in prison. Both Mairead and Paul would have to serve at least half of their sentences, which is 8.5 years, before they could be released on license. On November 29, 2013, Mairead appealed her sentence. Her lawyers argued that she was under Michael's control and could not make her own choices. The court dismissed her appeal. The sentence remained the same. In 2020, after serving half of her 17-year sentence, Mairead was released from prison on license. She left prison and returned to living in the community under supervision. In 2025, Paul Mosley was released from prison on license after serving half of his sentence. On October 4, 2025, he was found dead at a property in Portsmouth. The cause of his death was not related to the case. Michael Philpott remained in prison serving his life sentence with a minimum term of 15 years. The 6 children, Duane, Jade, John, Jack, Jesse, and Jaden, never came home from 18 Victory Road, and their father's lies could not bring them back. Story 2. Luca Rocco Magnatta was born on July 24, 1982 in Scarborough, Ontario, Canada. His birth name was Eric Clinton Kirk Newman. He was the first of 3 children born to Anna Yorkin and Donald Newman. His mother was very focused on cleanliness. She would lock her children out of the house. She once left the family's pet rabbits outside in the cold, and they died. His father was diagnosed with schizophrenia in 1994. After that diagnosis, his parents divorced. Following the divorce, Magnatta went to live with his grandmother, whose name was Phyllis. Magnatta attended I.E. Weldon Secondary School in Lindsay, Ontario. While he was a teenager, he began using illegal drugs. These drugs caused symptoms that looked like schizophrenia. Later, he was diagnosed with schizophrenia himself. Because of this diagnosis, he received a disability allowance from the government. He did not earn enough money from this allowance, so he found other ways to make money. One of those ways was working as a male prostitute. In 2003, he started appearing in gay pornography films. He also worked as a stripper. In 2005, a magazine in Toronto called Fab published a picture of him as a pin-up model. He used the fake name Jimmy for that photo. Despite what some news stories later said, he was not a famous porn star. Over 5 years, he made less than 12 videos. A person who worked for an adult film database said that even the porn industry was not very interested in him. He also did not have much success as a model. On August 12, 2006, he legally changed his name from Eric Clinton Kirk Newman to Luca Rocco Magnatta. He said he wanted a new name to match a new identity. In March 2007, Magnatta declared bankruptcy. He owed $17,000 in various debts. The bankruptcy was fully closed in December 2007, meaning he no longer had to pay those debts. In 2007, he tried to win a reality television show called Sio Virgai on Out TV. He did not win. He also had multiple cosmetic surgeries on his face and body. In February 2008, he tried to get on another television show called Plastic Makes Perfect on the Slice Network. He auditioned for the show but did not get selected. Over several years, Magnatta created many fake profiles on social media websites and internet forums. He used these profiles to make false claims about himself. For example, he said he was a successful model and a famous porn star, even though he was not. The police later found that he had set up at least 70 Facebook pages and 20 websites using different names. He used these fake identities to praise himself, to attack people he did not like, and to spread false information about himself so that he would get attention. One person who had been Magnatta's lover in the early 2000s described him as a manipulative liar. She said he was often self-destructive. He would plant false rumors about himself online, including negative rumors, so that he could then deny those rumors and pretend that he was being cyberstalked. In 2005, before he changed his name, Magnotta was convicted of 1 count of impersonation and 3 counts of fraud. He had targeted a woman who had a developmental disability. He convinced her to apply for credit cards. Then he used those credit cards himself to buy more than $10,000 worth of goods from Sears Canada, The Brick, and 2001 audio-video. He was also accused of sexually assaulting that same woman, but that charge was later dropped. He pleaded guilty to the fraud and impersonation charges. He received a 9-month conditional sentence, which meant he did not have to go to prison as long as he followed certain rules. He also received 12 months of probation. The court noted at the time that Magnotta had serious psychiatric problems and that he did not always take his medication. In 2007, a false rumor appeared online claiming that Magnotta was in a romantic relationship with Karla Homolka. Homolka was a famous Canadian convicted murderer. This rumor got the attention of a Toronto radio station called AM 640 and a newspaper called the Toronto Sun. Both news outlets interviewed Magnotta so he could deny the rumor. A reporter from the Toronto Sun, who met with Magnotta later, said that he found Magnotta to be troubled. The reporter suspected at the time that Magnotta had made up the rumor himself just to get attention. However, the reporter assumed that Magnotta was more of a danger to himself than to others. One of Magnotta's former lovers later said that Magnotta was obsessed with becoming famous, and that he seemed to view Homolka and her accomplice Paul Bernardo as role models. In 2010, Magnotta posted a video on YouTube with the title "One Boy, Two Kittens." In the video, he put 2 kittens inside a plastic bag and used a vacuum cleaner to suck the air out, which suffocated the kittens. Later, he published a second video showing himself drowning a cat in a bathtub. A third video showed him feeding a cat to a large snake called a python. In January 2011, a private Facebook group identified Magnotta as the person in these videos. Animal rights activist groups offered a $5,000 reward for information that would lead to his arrest. Online animal activists called him the vacuum kitten killer. The online community that identified him reported him to the authorities. They warned that after someone commits acts of cruelty to animals, that person might later become a danger to humans. In February 2011, Toronto police began investigating Magnotta because of these animal cruelty videos. The Ontario Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals also contacted police in Britain, the American FBI, and police in Montreal because Magnotta traveled frequently. On May 24, 2012, Jun Lin was a 33-year-old university student from China. He had been living in Montreal, Quebec, since July 2011. He was studying computer engineering at Concordia University. He also worked part-time at a convenience store. Jun Lin was gay, but he had not told his family in China. A few weeks before May 24th, his relationship with his boyfriend had ended. After that breakup, Jun Lin started using an app called Grindr to meet other men. He also looked at ads on a website called Craigslist. Luca Magnotta had posted an ad on Craigslist. The ad offered sex and bondage. Jun Lin saw the ad and replied to it. The 2 men agreed to meet at Magnotta's apartment. Magnotta lived on Deckery Boulevard in Montreal. He had moved into that apartment 4 months earlier, around January 2012. He had paid his rent up to June 1st, 2012. On the night of May 24th, 2012, Jun Lin went to Magnotta's apartment building. A surveillance camera recorded them both entering the building. That was the last time Jun Lin was seen alive. Inside the apartment, Magnotta attacked Jun Lin. First, Magnotta slit Jun Lin's throat. This killed Jun Lin. After Jun Lin was dead, Magnotta tied the body to a bed frame. Then he took a screwdriver that he had painted silver. He used that screwdriver to stab the body multiple times. He also used a kitchen knife. The video that Magnotta later made did not show the actual killing. The video showed acts done to the body after death. After the killing, Magnotta cut the body into pieces. He used tools including a knife, scissors, a saw, and a hammer. He put the body parts into garbage bags. He also put some parts into a suitcase. He placed the suitcase in a garbage pile in an alley behind an apartment building in the Snowdon area of Montreal. A janitor saw that suitcase on May 25th, but there was too much garbage that day, so the janitor did not pick it up. Magnotta also took some of the body parts and prepared them for mailing. He put a left foot into one package and a left hand into another package. He marked one package with a red heart symbol. He wrote a note that said 6 body parts had been sent and that he would kill again. He also wrote another note on a different package that said, "Roses are red, violets are blue. The police will need dental records to identify you, bitch." He wrapped some packages in pink tissue paper. On May 25, 2012, the day after the killing, Magnotta made an 11-minute video. He titled it, "One Lunatic, One Ice Pick." In the video, he showed the body of June Lin tied to the bed. He showed himself stabbing the body with what looked like an ice pick, but was actually the painted screwdriver. He then showed himself cutting the body apart. He also did acts of necrophilia, including using the victim's severed arm to masturbate. He played a song called "True Faith" by New Order in the background. A poster for the movie Casablanca was visible on the wall. He also brought a dog into the video, and the dog chewed on the body. He used a knife and fork to cut off some flesh from the body. Later, Canadian authorities said cannibalism may have been performed, but the video did not clearly show that. After making the video, Magnotta uploaded it to a website called bestgore.com. The owner of that website then posted the video online. The video had been promoted online 10 days before the murder even took place. That meant Magnotta had planned the crime ahead of time. Also on May 25, 2012, Magnotta booked a round-trip flight ticket from Montreal to Paris, France. He used a passport with his own name. He then left Canada. On May 26, 2012, a lawyer from Montana in the United States saw the video online. He tried to report it to Toronto police, his local sheriff, and the FBI, but the officials did not take action at that time. Other people who watched the video also tried to report it. On May 29, 2012, at 11 o'clock in the morning, a package arrived at the national headquarters of the Conservative Party of Canada in Ottawa. The package contained a left human foot. The package was stained with blood and had a bad smell. Another package containing a left hand was found at a Canada Post processing facility. That package was addressed to the Liberal Party of Canada. The police later confirmed that the body parts came from an Asian male. On May 30, 2012, the police identified the victim as June Lin. They also identified the suspect as Luca Magnotta, but Magnotta had already fled Canada. On June 5, 2012, more packages were found. A package containing a right foot was delivered to St. George's School in Vancouver, British Columbia. Another package containing a right hand was delivered to False Creek Elementary School, also in Vancouver. Both packages had been sent from Montreal. By June 13, 2012, the 4 limbs, both hands and both feet, and the torso were matched to June Lin using DNA from his family. But his head was still missing. On July 1, 2012, police received an anonymous tip. They searched the edge of a small lake in Angrignon Park in Montreal. There they found June Lin's head. Magnotta had committed all of these acts: killing June Lin, dismembering the body, mailing body parts to schools and political party offices, posting a violent video online, and performing necrophilia. He had also written threatening notes. He had planned the crime before May 24th, as shown by the online promotions of the video that appeared 10 days earlier. He had used a fake identity at times, but he also used his real name to book the flight to Paris. The first discovery happened on May 29, 2012, when the package with the left foot arrived at the Conservative Party headquarters in Ottawa. The person who opened the package saw blood and a bad smell. They called the police immediately. At the same time, the package with the left hand was found at a Canada Post facility before it could be delivered to the Liberal Party. Police were called there as well. On that same day, May 29th, June Lin's friends reported him missing to the police. He had not shown up for his shift at the convenience store on May 25th. His boss became suspicious. 3 of his friends went to his apartment on May 27th and saw that he was not there. They waited 2 days, then filed a missing person report. On May 30th, police searched the alley in the Snowdon area of Montreal, where the janitor had seen the suitcase on May 25th. They found the suitcase containing the torso. They also found bloody clothes, papers that identified Magnotta, and several sharp and blunt objects. Police then checked surveillance footage from inside the apartment building near that alley. The footage showed a man bringing many garbage bags outside. That man matched the description of a suspect seen on video at a post office in Côte-de-Neige. Later on May 30th, police went to Magnotta's apartment on Deckery Boulevard. The apartment had been mostly emptied before Magnotta left. But blood was found on the mattress, the refrigerator, the table, and the bathtub. On the inside of a closet, someone had written in red ink, "If you don't like the reflection, don't look in the mirror. I don't care." Police also found that the apartment had been rented by Magnotta and that his rent was paid until June 1st. Police quickly identified Magnotta as the suspect. An arrest warrant was issued by the Montreal police. Then the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP, upgraded it to a Canada-wide warrant. The charges included first-degree murder, committing an indignity to a dead body, publishing obscene material, mailing obscene material, and criminally harassing Prime Minister Stephen Harper and several members of Parliament. On May 31st, 2012, Interpol issued a red notice for Magnotta at Canada's request. This meant that any country that was a member of Interpol should arrest him temporarily and prepare to send him back to Canada. Meanwhile, Magnotta had flown from Montreal to Paris on May 25th using a passport with his real name. After arriving in France, his cell phone signal was traced to a hotel in a suburb called Bagnolet. But by the time police arrived, he had already left. In the hotel room, police found pornographic magazines and an air sickness bag. Magnotta had used a false passport with the name Kirk Trammell at that hotel. Magnotta stayed with some people in Paris who did not know who he was. One man let him stay for 2 nights and only realized Magnotta's identity after he left. Then Magnotta took a Eurolines bus from the Bagnolet coach station to Berlin, Germany. On June 4th, 2012, Magnotta was sitting in an internet cafe in the Neukölln district of Berlin. He was reading news stories about himself on the computer. A person at the cafe recognized him and called the police. Berlin police arrived and arrested him. He tried to give fake names, but then admitted who he was. Police confirmed his identity using his fingerprints. On June 5th, 2012, Magnotta appeared in a Berlin court. German officials said he did not oppose being sent back to Canada. There was enough evidence to keep him in custody until extradition. He agreed to a simplified process to speed things up. On June 18, 2012, Magnotta was handed over to Canadian authorities in Berlin. He was flown to Montreal on a Royal Canadian Air Force plane. The government said a military plane was necessary because using a commercial flight would raise safety concerns and possible legal problems if the plane had to land in another country. After arriving, Magnotta was placed in solitary confinement at the Rivière des Prairies detention center. On June 19, 2012, Magnotta appeared in court by video link. Through his lawyer, he pleaded not guilty to all charges. On June 21st, he appeared in person in a Montreal courtroom and requested a trial by jury. A preliminary hearing began on March 11, 2013. The evidence presented at that hearing was kept secret by a publication ban. During the hearing, both Magnata and Jun Lin's father physically collapsed at different times. On April 12, 2013, Magnata was formally indicted on the charges. The trial began on September 29, 2014, before Judge Guy Cournoyer. A jury of 8 women and 4 men was selected. The Crown Prosecutor, Louis Bouthelier, made an opening statement. The judge told the jurors that Magnata admitted to doing the acts, but that the jury had to decide whether he had the required state of mind for each crime. Magnata pleaded not guilty by reason of mental disorder. He claimed he was not criminally responsible because he had schizophrenia and was in a psychotic state. The defense called psychiatrists who testified that Magnata had paranoid schizophrenia. One defense expert, Dr. Joel Watts, said Magnata showed signs of schizophrenia, histrionic personality disorder, borderline personality traits, and paraphilia. Another defense expert, Dr. Barth, also said Magnata had paranoid schizophrenia. The Crown called its own experts. Dr. Joel Paris, a psychiatrist at the Jewish General Hospital in Montreal, had examined Magnata in April 2012, just 1 month before the murder. Dr. Paris diagnosed Magnata with borderline personality disorder, not schizophrenia. Dr. René Roy, who treated Magnata at the detention center, diagnosed him with borderline personality disorder with histrionic features. Dr. Gillis Chamberlain said Magnata showed signs of antisocial, histrionic, and narcissistic personality disorders. The Crown argued that Magnata was pretending to have schizophrenia to avoid responsibility. They said the murder was planned and premeditated. During the trial, Magnata told a psychiatrist that a person named Manny had been in the apartment urging him to kill. Manny was supposedly an abusive client from his escort business, but investigators determined that Manny was not a real person. The name came from the movie Basic Instinct. The character Catherine Trammell in that movie had a fiancé named Manny Vasquez. The screwdriver Magnata used had been painted silver to look like the ice pick used in the same movie. The Crown used this to show that Magnata was acting out a fantasy, not having a psychotic episode. Magnata chose not to testify at the trial. The trial lasted 10 weeks of hearing testimony. On December 15, 2014, the judge gave final instructions to the jury. The jury was sequestered, meaning they were kept in a hotel away from outside information. They began their deliberations on December 16th. After 8 days of deliberations, on December 23, 2014, the jury returned a verdict. They found Magnata guilty of first-degree murder. They also found him guilty of committing an indignity to a human body, publishing obscene materials, mailing obscene materials, and criminally harassing the Prime Minister and members of Parliament. Because first-degree murder in Canada carries a mandatory life sentence, the judge had no choice. Magnata was sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole for 25 years. He also received a separate sentence of 19 years for the other charges, but that sentence was to be served at the same time as the life sentence, not added on top. He was sent to Port Cartier Institution, a federal prison in Quebec. Magnata filed an appeal, claiming the judge gave wrong instructions to the jury and that the verdict was unreasonable. But on February 18, 2015, he withdrew his appeal. The conviction became final. Jun Lin's body was cremated on July 11, 2012. On July 26, 2012, his ashes were buried at Notre Dame de Neige Cemetery in Montreal. His family traveled from China to attend the funeral. The Chinese Students and Scholars Association of Concordia University created a fund to help Lin's family with expenses and set up an award in his memory. A candlelight vigil was held in Montreal. The owner of the website bestgore.com was later charged and convicted for posting the video, receiving a 6-month conditional sentence. Luca Rocco Magnatta remains in prison. He will be eligible to apply for parole in the year 2039, when he will be 57 years old. Jun Lin never returned to China, and his family carries his loss forever. Story 3. Muhammad Emwazi was born on August 17, 1988 in Kuwait. His full name at birth was Muhammad Jassim Abdulkarim Olayan al-Dafri. He was the oldest of 5 children in his family. His father was named Jassim. His mother was named Ghania. The family did not have Kuwaiti citizenship. They were part of a group called the Bedouin. This meant they were stateless people. They lived in a town called Al-Jara. The area they lived in was known as a slum. The Kuwaiti government kept stateless people in poor conditions there. When Muhammad was 6 years old, his family moved to the United Kingdom. That was in 1994. They settled in West London. They lived in an area called Maida Vale. The family moved between several homes in that area. They lived in subsidized housing, which meant the government helped pay for it. Later they moved to St. John's Wood. Finally they settled in Queen's Park. Muhammad went to a primary school called St. Mary Magdalene Church of England School. Then he went to secondary school at Quinton Canaston School. His former head teacher later said that Muhammad experienced some bullying at school. No details were given about what the bullying was or who did it. In 2006, Muhammad started university. He went to the University of Westminster. He studied information systems with business management. He studied for 3 years. In 2009, he graduated. He received a lower second-class honors degree. That is a pass level, but not the highest grade. At age 21, Muhammad got a job. He worked as a salesman at an IT company in Kuwait. His boss later said that Muhammad was the best employee the company ever had. He did well at his job. At some point, Muhammad became a British citizen. After he got UK citizenship, he started traveling back and forth to Kuwait. His father did the same. They would go to Kuwait to visit family or for work. While he was in London, Muhammad prayed sometimes at a mosque in Greenwich. He had friends in London. He lived a normal life on the outside. He went to university, got a degree, and worked. No one who knew him at this time thought he would later commit violent acts. When he was in his early 20s, Muhammad met with a man named Asim Qureshi. Qureshi worked for a human rights group called Cage. Muhammad spoke to Qureshi about problems he had when trying to travel. He told Qureshi that he felt badly treated by security officials. He did not like how he was stopped and questioned. In May 2009, after graduating, Muhammad planned a trip with 2 friends. One friend was a German convert to Islam named Omar. The other friend was named Abu Talib. They planned to go on a safari in Tanzania. That was a holiday to see wild animals. But when they landed in Dar es Salaam, which is the main city in Tanzania, the police stopped them. The police held them overnight. Then the police deported them. That meant they were sent back to where they came from. After that, Muhammad flew to Amsterdam. While there, he said that an MI5 officer spoke to him. MI5 is the British Domestic Intelligence Agency. The officer accused Muhammad of trying to go to Somalia. Somalia was a country where a militant group called Al-Shabaab operated. Muhammad denied this. He said he was only going on safari. But the accusation stayed with him. Tanzanian officials later gave a different story. They said Muhammad was refused entry because he was drunk and abusive. That meant he had been drinking alcohol and behaved badly. It is not clear which version is true. Muhammad and his friends were allowed to return to Britain. When he came back, he met again with Asim Qureshi in late 2009. Qureshi said that Muhammad was very angry. He was incensed about how he had been treated by the authorities. He felt he had done nothing wrong, but was being watched and stopped. After this, Muhammad moved to Kuwait again. He worked for a computer company there. but he returned to London 2 more times. On his second visit, he made plans to marry a woman who lived in Kuwait. In June 2010, something else happened. Mohammed was detained by counterterrorism officials in Britain. They searched him. They took his fingerprints. They also blocked him from returning to Kuwait. He could not go back to his job or to the woman he planned to marry. 4 months later, in October 2010, Mohammed sent an email to Asim Qureshi. In that email, he expressed sympathy for a woman named Afia Siddiqui. She had just been sentenced in an American court for assault and attempted murder. Mohammed felt sorry for her. Qureshi said he last heard from Mohammed in January 2012. At that time, Mohammed asked Qureshi for advice. Close friends of Mohammed said that he was desperate to leave the United Kingdom. One friend said that in 2012, Mohammed tried to travel to Saudi Arabia to teach English. But he was not successful. Sometime after January 2012, Mohammed traveled to Syria. He did not tell many people he was going. He did contact his family from there. He also contacted at least one of his friends. But after that, he stopped communicating with people back in London. After Mohammed Emwazi traveled to Syria sometime after January 2012, he joined the Islamic State group. This group is also called ISIS. They controlled large areas of Syria and Iraq. Emwazi became a fighter and a guard for the group. He was given the job of watching over foreign hostages. These were people from other countries who had been captured. The hostages were journalists, aid workers, and other civilians. They were kept in prisons and treated badly. The hostages gave Emwazi a nickname. They called him John. He was part of a small group of 4 British men who guarded them. The hostages called this group the Beatles because all 4 men had British accents. Each man was given the first name of a Beatle. Emwazi was called John after John Lennon. Later, journalists gave him another nickname. They called him Jihadi John. This name first appeared in a magazine called The Spectator on August 20th, 2014. The BBC and other news outlets then started using the same name. Emwazi appeared in several videos that the Islamic State released. In these videos, he wore black clothes from head to toe. He wore a mask that covered his whole face, except for his eyes. He wore tan-colored desert boots on his feet. He carried a pistol in a leather holster under his left shoulder. In the videos, Emwazi spoke with a London accent. He stood next to a captive who was wearing an orange jumpsuit. The captive would read a statement first. Then Emwazi would read a statement. After that, Emwazi would kill the captive. The killing was done off camera in some videos. In other videos, the killing was shown directly. The first video was uploaded to YouTube on August 19, 2014. The victim was James Foley. James Foley was an American journalist. He was 40 years old. He had been captured in Syria in November 2012. In the video, Foley read a statement criticizing the United States. He also spoke about the recent airstrikes in Iraq and his brother, who served in the U.S. Air Force. Then Emwazi read a statement. He criticized President Barack Obama. He demanded that the United States stop its military action in Iraq. Then Emwazi beheaded Foley off camera. The video showed Foley's body after the killing. At the end of the video, Emwazi threatened to kill another American journalist named Steven Sotloff if his demands were not met. The FBI and the U.S. National Security Council confirmed that the video was real. The second video was released on September 2, 2014. The victim was Steven Sotloff. Steven Sotloff was also an American journalist. He was 31 years old. He had been captured in Syria in August 2013. The video showed Emwazi beheading Sotloff. The White House confirmed that the video was real. The third video was released on September 13, 2014. The victim was David Haynes. David Haynes was a British aid worker. He was 44 years old. He came from Scotland. He had been captured in Syria in March 2013. The video was directed at British Prime Minister David Cameron. Mwazi beheaded Haynes on camera. David Cameron and the British Foreign Office confirmed the video was real. The fourth video was released on October 3, 2014. The victim was Alan Henning. Alan Henning was a British aid worker. He was 47 years old. He was a taxi driver from Salford, Greater Manchester. He had volunteered to drive a convoy of aid to Syria. He was captured on December 27, 2013 in a town called Al Dana. That area was held by the Islamic State at the time. The video showed Mwazi beheading Henning. The fifth video was released on November 16, 2014. The victim was Peter Kassig. Peter Kassig was an American aid worker. He was 26 years old. He had been captured in Syria on October 1, 2013. This video was different from the earlier ones. The video did not show Kassig being beheaded. Instead, it showed Mwazi standing over a severed head. The White House confirmed that the head belonged to Peter Kassig. Unlike the other hostages, Kassig did not make a statement in the video. Some experts later looked at the video closely. A surgeon suggested that Kassig may have been shot instead of beheaded, but this was never proven. The same video that showed Kassig's head also showed other killings. Mwazi and a group of militants beheaded a number of Syrian soldiers. The video showed the killings in very graphic detail. Unlike previous videos, this one showed the faces of many militants. The video was filmed in a place called Dabik in Aleppo province. Experts later counted that 22 Syrian soldiers were executed in that video. On January 20, 2015, a new threat was issued. The Islamic State said they would kill 2 Japanese captives. The 2 men were Haruna Yukawa and Kenji Goto. Haruna Yukawa was 42 years old. He had been captured sometime before August 2014. Kenji Goto was 47 years old. He was a journalist. He had been captured in October 2014 while trying to rescue Yukawa. The Islamic State demanded $200 million from the Japanese government. If Japan did not pay, the men would be killed. On January 24, 2015, a video appeared showing that Haruna Yukawa had been beheaded. On January 31, 2015, a second video appeared showing that Kenji Goto had been beheaded. Mwazi was believed to be the killer in both videos, though his face was masked as usual. Experts later analyzed the videos carefully. One forensics expert hired by the Times newspaper looked at the James Foley video. He said the video may have been staged. He believed the murder may have happened after the camera stopped recording, but he did not question that Foley was actually killed. 2 video specialists said parts of the video appeared to be edited and staged. A hostage negotiator named James Alvarez also said the Foley video was expertly staged. He pointed out that 2 separate cameras were used and a clip-on microphone was attached to Foley's orange jumpsuit. A forensic expert from the United States named Jeff Smith said the beheadings shown in the videos were staged. Elliot Higgins, a British analyst, studied the landscape in the James Foley video. He found that the video was filmed in the hills south of the Syrian city of Raqqa. This helped identify where Mwazi was operating. While Mwazi was committing these crimes, people around the world were watching. The videos spread widely on the internet. Governments began trying to identify the masked man, but no arrests were made yet. The police had not caught him. The investigations had not been completed. Mwazi continued to appear in new videos. He continued to kill more captives. He remained free in Syria, still masked, still holding a knife. After the videos were released, police and intelligence agencies began searching for the masked man. The FBI, MI5, British intelligence, and Scotland Yard all worked together. They offered a reward for information. On September 20, 2014, the United States Senate approved a $10 million reward for anyone who helped capture the person responsible for killing James Foley, Stephen Sotloff, and David Haynes. The investigators studied the videos closely. They listened to the man's voice. They looked at his height, his body shape, the veins on his hands, his clothes, and his boots. They studied the landscape in the background. They used voice recognition technology. On August 24, 2014, the British ambassador to the United States said that Britain was very close to identifying the man. On September 14, 2014, British Prime Minister David Cameron said that the identity of Jihadi John was known, but he did not reveal the name to the public. On September 25, 2014, FBI Director James Comey told reporters that they had identified the suspect. He also did not give the man's name or nationality. During this time, news outlets named other possible suspects. One was Abdulmajid Abdulbari, a 23-year-old hip-hop musician from London. Another was a man known as Abu Hussein al-Brittany. But these names were not correct. On February 26, 2015, the Washington Post published a major report. Two reporters named Swad Mekanet and Adam Goldman identified the masked man as Muhammad Emwazi. They had spoken to Emwazi's friends and looked at his emails. They confirmed his date of birth, his university, his degree, and his last known address in Queen's Park, North London. After this report, more information came out. Emwazi's mother reportedly recognized her son's voice from the videos. But his father denied that Emwazi was Jihadi John. An unnamed cousin of Emwazi said, "We hate him. We hope he will be killed soon." On March 8, 2015, a newspaper reported that Emwazi had sent a message through a third party. He apologized for the trouble his identity had caused his family. But he did not express any regret for killing his victims. Now that Emwazi was identified, the hunt became more focused. The United States and the United Kingdom worked together to track his location in Syria. They used drones, satellites, and spies. They watched his movements in the city of Raqqa, which was controlled by the Islamic State. On November 12, 2015, the operation took place. 2 United States drone aircraft and 1 British drone carried out an airstrike in Raqqa. The target was Muhammad Emwazi. The strike was carefully timed. It happened as Emwazi was leaving a building and getting into a vehicle. The drone fired a missile. The missile hit the vehicle. A U.S. official called it a flawless and clean hit. There was no collateral damage, meaning no other people were killed or hurt. The official said Emwazi was evaporated by the blast. Another senior U.S. military official said, "We are 99% sure we got him." On December 14, 2015, President Barack Obama announced that Emwazi had been taken out. British Prime Minister David Cameron said that the UK and the US had been working hand in glove, round the clock, to find Emwazi. He called the drone strike an act of self-defense. But confirmation took more time. On January 19, 2016, the Islamic State released an obituary in their magazine called Dabik. The group confirmed that Muhammad Emwazi had been killed by the drone strike in Raqqa. The obituary showed a photo of him without a mask. It referred to him by a different name, Abu Muharib al-Muhajir. On January 26, 2016, more unmasked photos of Emwazi in Syria were released. This confirmed beyond doubt that he was dead. After his death, the families of his victims spoke. Bethany Haynes, the daughter of David Haynes, had previously said she would only feel closure when there was a bullet between his eyes. The Sotloff family said they wished to see Emwazi imprisoned, but that was no longer possible. In July 2017, the reporter Swad Mekanet published a book about the hunt for Jihadi John. She explained how she helped identify him. In September 2017, the Telegraph released old video footage showing Emwazi unmasked in Syria, relaxing and talking with other Islamic State members. Muhammad Emwazi never faced a trial. He never stood before a judge. He was never sentenced in a court of law. He died at age 27, killed by a drone strike in a foreign country, and his body was never recovered. The story of Jihadi John ended not with justice in a courtroom, but with a missile fired from the sky. Story 4. Christopher Jordan Dorner was born on June 4, 1979 in Southern California. He grew up in that same region. His family lived in different cities around Southern California during his childhood. When Christopher was in school, he was often the only African American student in his class. This happened from first grade all the way to seventh grade. He had fights and arguments with other students because of racism. He did not like being treated differently because of the color of his skin. As a teenager, Christopher made a decision about his future. He wanted to become a police officer. To learn more about police work, he joined a youth program offered by the police department in the city of La Palma. This program taught young people what officers did on the job. Christopher attended Cypress High School in the city of Cypress, California. He worked hard and graduated from high school in 1997. After high school, he went to college at Southern Utah University. He studied political science as his main subject. He also studied psychology as a secondary subject. He graduated from this university in 2001. While he was a student there, he played football for the university team. He was a running back from 1999 to 2000. In 2002, Christopher joined the United States Navy Reserve as an officer. He was sent to train as a pilot at Vance Air Force Base in Enid, Oklahoma. One day, he and another student found a bag on the ground. The bag contained nearly $8,000 in cash. The money belonged to a local church called the Enid Korean Church of Grace. Christopher and his classmate did not keep the money. They took the bag to the police. When someone asked him why he did that, Christopher said that the military taught him to have integrity. He also said his mother taught him to be honest. During his time in the Navy Reserve, Christopher received 2 awards. One was the Navy Rifle Marksmanship Ribbon. The other was the Navy Pistol Shot Ribbon with an expert device. These awards meant he was very good at shooting rifles and pistols. In 2005, while still serving as a Navy reservist, Christopher joined the Los Angeles Police Department. He entered the police academy that year. He finished his training and graduated from the academy in 2006. After he became a police officer, his duties were interrupted. The Navy Reserve sent him to Bahrain for deployment. He served there from November 2006 to April 2007. When he returned from Bahrain in July 2007, he needed to complete his probationary training. The police department paired him with a training officer named Teresa Evans. She was supposed to finish his training. On his first day working with Teresa Evans, Christopher told her something unusual. He said he planned to sue the LAPD after he finished his probationary period. He was upset about how the department had responded to complaints he had made earlier against his classmates. He did not explain those complaints in detail at that time. Christopher was married for a period of time. Court records show that his wife filed for divorce in 2007. He had 2 children from that marriage. Neighbors who lived near Christopher described his family as admired and well-liked. They said Christopher usually kept to himself and did not talk much to others. In 2008, the LAPD fired Christopher from his job as a police officer. The reason given was that he made false statements in a report and in his testimony against his training officer Teresa Evans. Christopher did not accept this decision. He believed he was treated unfairly. His lawyer at the time was a former LAPD captain named Randall Kwan. Christopher said he was being made a scapegoat. Christopher appealed his termination. He filed a petition with the Los Angeles County Superior Court. A judge named David Yaff looked at the case. The judge wrote that he was not sure whether the training officer had actually kicked a suspect or not. but the judge still agreed with the LAPD's decision to fire Christopher. At the end of the hearing, Christopher yelled out in disbelief. He said he told the truth and asked how this ruling could happen. Christopher did not stop there. He appealed again to a higher court called the California Court of Appeal. On October 3, 2011, that court also agreed with the LAPD. The court said the LAPD had enough evidence to find that Christopher was not truthful in his allegations against Teresa Evans. On February 1, 2013, Christopher was honorably discharged from the Navy Reserve. He held the rank of lieutenant at the time of his discharge. On February 1, 2013, Christopher Dorner was honorably discharged from the Navy Reserve. That same day, he sent a package to a news reporter named Anderson Cooper at CNN. The package arrived at Cooper's office. Inside was a DVD that contained Dorner's complaints against the Los Angeles Police Department. The package also contained a coin that had been shot with bullets. A note on the package said 1 MOA, which meant he could shoot a bullet hole the size of 1 inch from 100 yards away. This was his way of showing he was a very good shot with a rifle. 2 days later, on February 3, 2013, Dorner committed his first murders. In the evening in Irvine, California, a woman named Monica Kwan and her fiancé Keith Lawrence were sitting in Lawrence's white Kia Optima car. The car was parked outside their condominium building. Dorner approached the car and shot both of them. Monica Kwan was 28 years old. Keith Lawrence was 27 years old. Both died from their wounds. Monica Kwan was the daughter of Randall Kwan, the former LAPD captain, who had been Dorner's lawyer during his firing hearing in 2008. Keith Lawrence worked as a campus safety officer for the University of Southern California. On February 4, 2013, Dorner posted a long written statement online. This became known as his manifesto. In it, he explained why he was doing these things. He said he would not be alive to see his name cleared. He said that was what this was about, his name. He wrote that he was starting unconventional and asymmetric warfare against the LAPD, their families, and their associates. He made one demand. The LAPD had to admit publicly that he was fired because he reported excessive force by another officer. He also listed 40 law enforcement people he was prepared to kill. On February 6, 2013, the police in Irvine named Dorner as the main suspect in the murders of Monica Kwan and Keith Lawrence. His manifesto had specifically named Randall Kwan and his family as targets. The police now knew who they were looking for. On February 7, 2013, Dorner carried out more shootings. At about 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 LAPD officers were driving in Corona, California. They were on their way to protect someone that Dorner had named as a target. A man named R.L. McDaniel waved them down. He told them he had seen a man matching Dorner's description at a gas station. The officers went to look. They began following a pickup truck. The driver of the truck stopped, got out, and fired a rifle at the officers. One officer was grazed on the head by a bullet. Both officers survived. About 20 minutes later, Dorner struck again. In the nearby city of Riverside, 2 police officers were sitting in their marked patrol car. They were stopped at a red traffic light. Dorner ambushed them and shot them. One officer, Michael Crane, died from his wounds shortly after. The other officer was taken to a hospital in critical condition. He survived after surgery. About 1 hour and 25 minutes after the Riverside shooting, at around 3 o'clock in the morning, a man matching Dorner's description tried to steal a boat in San Diego. He told the boat's captain he would take the boat to Mexico. He did not succeed in taking the boat. Later that same day, February 7th, a local man named Daniel McGowan found a burned vehicle on a remote fire trail near Big Bear Lake. The vehicle was a dark gray 2005 Nissan Titan. It belonged to Dorner. Dorner had set it on fire and left it there. He then went into the woods and found a cabin owned by a family named Reynolds. He entered that cabin without permission and stayed there. The Reynolds family was not home at that time. On February 9, 2013, the LAPD chief announced that the department would reopen its investigation into Dorner's firing. This was a response to his manifesto and the killings. But Dorner did not surrender. On February 10, 2013, authorities offered a reward of $1 million for information that led to Dorner's capture. On February 12, 2013, the Reynolds family returned to their cabin at Big Bear Lake. They did not know Dorner was inside. Dorner captured them and tied them up. He did not hurt them. He then stole their white Dodge truck and drove away. The Reynoldses freed themselves quickly and called the police. At 12:22 in the afternoon, deputies from the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department responded to the report of the carjacking. They began searching for the white Dodge truck from the ground and from the air. Officers from the California Department of Fish and Wildlife spotted the truck first. They recognized Dorner as the driver. Officers from many different agencies chased Dorner to another cabin near Big Bear Lake. Dorner got out of the truck and went into that second cabin. He then opened fire on two sheriff's deputies who were approaching. Both deputies were hit. They were taken to a hospital by helicopter. One of them, Detective Jeremiah McKay, was pronounced dead at the hospital. The other deputy survived. Police surrounded the cabin. They set up a 3-mile perimeter around it. Residents were told to stay inside with their doors locked. Police used loudspeakers to demand that Dorner surrender. They also shot tear gas into the cabin. When Dorner did not respond, police used a demolition vehicle to knock down most of the walls of the cabin. Then they shot pyrotechnic tear gas canisters into the cabin. These canisters were called burners. They caused the cabin to catch on fire. Shortly after the fire started, a single gunshot was heard from inside the cabin. Ammunition inside the cabin began to explode because of the heat. Police could not go inside to put out the fire because it was too dangerous. Later that evening, police said they had not recovered any body from the cabin. They said the cabin area was too hot to enter. The standoff was over. Dorner did not come out alive. On February 13, 2013, the day after the fire, searchers went through the burned cabin. They found human remains inside the rubble. They also found a wallet. Inside the wallet was a California driver's license with the name Christopher Dorner on it. The cabin was too damaged and hot to search completely the night before, but now investigators could enter. The San Bernardino County Sheriff, John McMahon, held a press conference that same day. He said that his deputies did not intentionally set the cabin on fire. He also revealed that during the earlier search for Dorner, deputies had knocked on the door of this same cabin. No one answered, so they moved on. At that time, Dorner was already inside but did not respond. On February 14, 2013, medical examiners performed an autopsy on the remains. They used dental records to identify the body. The examiners confirmed that the charred body was Christopher Dorner. On February 15, 2013, the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department announced the autopsy results. Dorner died from a single gunshot wound to his own head. He had shot himself inside the cabin before the fire fully took hold. The sheriff again stated that his deputies did not deliberately set the cabin on fire. The captain who led the assault on the cabin said the tear gas canisters were a last resort. He admitted that the potential for fire was considered before using them. Now the story turns to two separate incidents that happened on the morning of February 7, 2013, while police were searching for Dorner. Dorner was not present at either incident. At about 5:30 in the morning on February 7th, several LAPD officers were guarding the home of an LAPD official. They saw a light blue Toyota Tacoma truck exit a freeway and drive toward the area. The truck had its headlights off. The officers thought the truck matched the description of Dorner's Nissan Titan. They opened fire on the truck. Inside were two women, Emma Hernandez, who was 71 years old, and her daughter Margie Carranza, who was 47. They were delivering newspapers for the Los Angeles Times. Emma Hernandez was shot in the back. Margie Carranza was shot in the hand. Both survived. A neighbor said the women kept their headlights off, so they would not wake people up while delivering newspapers. The LAPD started an internal investigation. The women's lawyer later said there were 102 bullet holes found in their truck. About 25 minutes after that shooting, officers from the Torrance Police Department opened fire on another vehicle. This vehicle was a black Honda Ridgeline driven by a white man named David Perdue. He was on his way to the beach to surf. Police claimed the truck matched the description of Dorner's vehicle. A police cruiser crashed into Perdue's truck, and officers fired their guns. David Perdue was not hit by any bullets. He suffered injuries from the car crash. Perdue did not look like Dorner, and his truck was a different make and color than Dorner's. On April 2013, the LAPD paid a settlement of $4.2 million to Margie Carranza and Emma Hernandez. The city of Torrance offered David Perdue $500,000. He rejected that offer. In July 2014, the city of Torrance agreed to pay Perdue $1.8 million. On February 4, 2014, LAPD Chief Charlie Beck announced that 8 officers had violated the LAPD's use of force policy during the shooting of the 2 women. He said the discipline could range from retraining to termination. No criminal charges were filed against the officers. The $1 million reward for information leading to Dorner's capture had to be divided. The terms of the reward were not clearly written, so judges decided how to split the money. James and Karen Reynolds, the couple whom Dorner tied up in their cabin before stealing their truck, received $800,000. Daniel McGowan, the man who found Dorner's burned Nissan Titan, received $150,000. R.L. McDaniel, the man who flagged down the officers at the gas station in Corona, received $50,000. The LAPD went forward with the review of Dorner's firing that had been announced during the manhunt. The department examined the case but did not reverse its decision. The official finding remained that Dorner had made false statements. On February 16, 2013, a small group of protesters gathered outside LAPD headquarters. They objected to how Dorner's firing was handled. They also objected to the police shooting of the 2 women delivering newspapers. And they objected to the tactics that led to the cabin fire. No violence was reported from the protest. The 4 people Dorner killed were Monica Kwan, Keith Lawrence, Officer Michael Crane, and Detective Jeremiah McKay. The 3 people he wounded were the 2 LAPD officers in Corona. 1 grazed, 1 unharmed except for the graze. Actually, the Corona shooting grazed 1 officer. The other was not hit. Let me check. In part 2 I wrote, 1 officer was grazed on the head by a bullet. Both officers survived. That is correct. Then the Riverside shooting. 1 died, 1 survived. Then the final shootout. 2 deputies hit, 1 died McKay, 1 survived. So total wounded. Corona officer grazed. Riverside officer survived. Final deputy survived. That is 3 wounded. Correct. Their families received support from the police departments and the community. The LAPD and other agencies continued to provide protection for the officers named in Dorner's manifesto for a period of time after his death. Christopher Dorner's body was cremated after the autopsy. His death was ruled a suicide. No funeral with police honors was held because he was a fugitive who had killed 4 people. The cabin where Dorner died was completely destroyed by the fire. No charges were ever filed against any officer for starting that fire. The San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department concluded that the fire was an unintended result of using pyrotechnic tear gas canisters to force Dorner out. The case of Christopher Dorner was officially closed in 2014 after all investigations, settlements, and disciplinary actions were completed. Christopher Dorner killed 4 people and wounded 3 others before taking his own life in a burning cabin, and his revenge against the LAPD ended with his death.